Hey everyone, I'm Joe and today it's time for my Winter 2016 book and music haul. I've decided that I'm going to include music in my hauls from now on because I really do like my music. I never actually really talk about my music even though I have a pretty large music collection, at least by my standards. And I asked for music suggestions on Twitter about a month ago and I got several and indeed bought several. So I thought I would actually include them in hauls and see if people are interested because I love music, I really do. I listen to music every single day. I mean, at least one album a day I'll listen to without fail. And I've done that actually for probably 10 years continuously now. So first I'll start talking about the books. There's 6 of them in total and they're all by the same author. So this might not be as interesting to some people, but it's definitely interesting to me. The first 2 books are Second Variety by Philip K. Dick and Minority Report by Philip K. Dick. This is volume 2 of 5. This is volume 4 of 5. I have volumes 1, 3 and 5 just there behind me on the shelf, which means that this collection is now complete. It is a science fiction short story collection. Philip K. Dick was notorious and famous for the sheer variety and also the number of short stories he wrote. He wrote well over 100 over the course of his life. And I now have most of them in these 5 volumes. I might have to buy more compendiums at some point because I'm almost certain there are a few of his short stories that have been missed out of these 5 novels. Not many, but a few here and there. The next 4 books are also by Philip K. Dick, and frankly I don't really know anything about them at all really, so I can't really talk too much about them. I'm working my way through buying and owning Philip K. Dick's entire catalogue of books, and that is indeed my plan for this year, so I really can't say too much, but here we go. The first of which is Jew Ivor, Philip K. Dick and Roger Zelazny. This one, well, is one that sounds quite curious, and I'll read the back. An artist searches for God so he can paint his portrait in Philip K. Dick's masterful collection with Roger Zelazny. After World War III, the servants of Roth Court defied the mysterious Carlton Luftwaffe, creator of the doomsday weapon that wiped out much of humanity. But to worship the man, they need an image of him as a god. So the high priest sends a limbless master painter into the wilderness on a mission to find Luftwaffe and capture his likeness. Unfortunately, the nation's remaining Christians do not want him to succeed and are willing to kill to ensure that so-called Jew Ivor remains hidden. Yeah, that sounds weird. A limbless painter. Okay, that's challenging. It's obviously a weird psychological story through a post-apocalyptic wasteland, and it sounds pretty bizarre, which is perfectly normal for Philip K. Dick. The next is Voices from the Street. Again, I'll just read the back because I don't know anything else more myself. One of the earliest novels Philip K. Dick ever wrote, but the last to be published. Voices from the Street is the story of one man's descent into depression and madness and his escape to the other side. Stuart Hadley is a young radio electronics salesman in early 1950s Oakland, California. He has a nice house, a pretty wife, a decent job with prospects for advancement, but he feels unfulfilled. Something is missing from his life. Hadley is also an angry young man, an artist, dreamer, screw up. He tries to fill his void first with drinking, then sex, and then with religious fanaticism, but nothing seems to be working. Is there anything that can bring him back to the world? Okay, so unsurprisingly, drink, sex, and presumably drugs is involved in this book. Yeah, that's pretty normal for Philip K. Dick, so yeah, it should be an interesting one as well. The next is The Broken Bubble. And again, I'll just read from the back because I don't know more. Set in mid-1950s San Francisco, The Broken Bubble is one of Philip K. Dick's early unpublished novels. Okay, similar to the previous book. Disc jockey Jim Briskin, his ex-wife Pat, and married teenagers Art and Rachel are 4 lost souls capable of irrational and sometimes violent behaviour. Jim loves his ex-wife, classical music and rock and roll. Pat loves no one. Art and Rachel idolise Jim because they hear him on the radio. Jim, in turn, sees himself as something of a father figure for Art and pregnant Rachel, After Pat seduces her, okay, it remains to Jim and Rachel to save both themselves and their former partners, but life is chaotic and brutal, and even actions taken with the best of intentions can sometimes misfire. Okay, this doesn't sound particularly science fiction, a lot of these normally are, but Philip K. Dick often writes books that have a very slightest of science fiction elements, or sometimes they have no science fiction element to them, and they are heavily psychological. I mean, really, one of these authors that you either, regardless of what genre he writes in, his books are always very heavily psychological, and this sounds like it's going to be a very good example. The last book is The Transmigration of Timothy Archer, and I'll just read it again. Episcopal Bishop Timothy Archer is haunted by the suicides of his son and mistress, and must cope with the implications of the discovery of a religious artifact. These events drive him into a quest for the identity of Christ. Okay. The Transmigration of Timothy Archer is Philip K. Dick's last completed novel, and a lurid, moving investigation of the paradoxes of belief. So yet again, Philip K. Dick is having another sort of novel where he's talking about religion and what it could be and what it might be if things were different. He has a fascination with trying to talk about and really take apart religion into parts and understand it. And this one sounds quite unusual. Okay, so that's it for the book. Now I'll talk about the CD. There are 10 of them in total, all of them by different artists, and the variety of genres is much greater than my variety of books, frankly. I like a much greater variety of genres overall than my books. Generally with books I'm very focused on science fiction and fantasy. With music I listen to and indeed own albums in practically every genre you could think of, and some of them are pretty surprising. They really are. So the first album is Foals and What Went Down. This is a British rock band. This is their 4th album. They are classed as indie rock. I have their previous album, which was released about 2 or 3 years ago, I believe, and I really enjoyed that one. It was called Holy Fire, if I remember correctly. This is one that I think is really, really good, and indeed lives up to the previous album, which I really did enjoy. And this is fairly normal genre and sort of fairly normal for my collection. I've got more rock than anything else in my collection, although I do have a lot of other odd and unusual music. The second album is Daft Punk, Random Access Memories. This is their latest album, made in 2013. Daft Punk, if you didn't know, are classed as disco electro, I believe. They are a French duo, and they are known for their very unique style, frankly. I love them. I have all their previous albums, which means I now have all of the albums to date. Obviously, hopefully they'll release a new album in a few years because I absolutely love them. This one has more of a theme than some of their albums. The sort of songs seem to almost blend into one another, and it has a very distinctive theme throughout the album. And I really like this album, frankly. Third album is Lost Prophets and the Fake Sound of Progress. This is a Welsh new metal or alternative metal band. This is actually their first ever album, released in the year 2000. I actually have every other album they've done. I only got into them during their second album, hence why I've never owned this. But I thought it's about time that I finally complete my collection of their CDs, so I now own everything they've done. And this, I actually like this better than a couple of their other albums. It's not their best album by any means, but it's certainly better than their third and fourth, I think it was. Although I could be misremembering and getting the album mixed up, but it's a really good album though. Fourth album is probably the most well-known artist amongst these 10, and that is Green Day and American Idiot. This was their 2004 album, which as of time of filming was 12 years ago. I somehow missed getting this album at the time. I listened to most of the songs in it, and indeed I know all the songs in it, but for some reason I just never bought it. I don't know how. I've got the album before it and I've got the album after it, but I do have other missing albums of theirs. And this album is a good one. It's a very well known. They are an American rock band, or punk rock band, and it's just a good, solid punk rock album, frankly. You sort of can't go wrong with Green Day, at least these years. Later Green Day albums, especially the later stuff, I'm not personally that mad on, but around this sort of time, this was when personally I think they were best. The next album is Hurt and Exile. This is their second album, released in 2013. They're an English duo and they are classed as electronic rock. At least that's according to the wiki. And this is a bit different from some of them. It's just them with instrumental music and these two singing the lyrics. It's a bit softer and a bit more gentle than quite a few of the other albums that I'm going to be showing you today. But I really like them, and indeed my choice in music is really shown by this, because this is an album that you might not expect from me if you saw some of my other ones. But I really do like variety with my music really badly. The sixth album is by Of Monsters and Men, and that is My Head is an Animal. This is their 2012 album, and they are an Icelandic pop folk band, which is certainly different for me. I've never had anything Icelandic before, and I was vaguely aware of them already, and then when I asked for music suggestions about a month ago, somebody suggested this, and I would like to say thank you to that person, who I should have made a note of who you are because I can't remember off the top of my head. I apologise for that. But I really do enjoy this album. It was a really interesting album and something a bit different, and I really didn't have any idea what to expect of this. And I listened to a few of their songs on YouTube, obviously, before I bought it, and I thought they were pretty good. And it really is good, actually. It's different, and the way the music goes and flows into one another is just really, really good. And some of them, like for instance, there's one song called Mountain Sound, which is frankly brilliant. But there's several others that are, well, pretty much all the songs on this I think are really brilliant, all in their own way. The seventh album is Coheed and Cambria, The Colour Before the Sun. This is their latest album, which they released last year. This is my first ever album by them, and this is going to make James, a fellow booktuber, very happy, because this is his favourite band, and now I own one of their CDs. And it won't be the last CD of theirs I own, because I absolutely love this album. It's really, really good. The songs work well together. They also work brilliantly well individually as well. So this is an album that I really, really enjoy. It is classed as progressive rock, I believe. And yeah, I'm definitely going to be buying more by them, probably in the near future. The eighth album is a very different type of album than the previous one, and that is the Best of C6 Steve, Walking Man. This is a best of album, obviously. It's got 21 songs on it, and C6 Steve, which is almost a tongue twister to say, is a blues musician from America. He's in his 70s, I believe. He became popular about 5 years ago, and I've always quite liked his music. So I thought it's about time I actually buy one of his albums. And I thought a best of album would be a very good place to start, because then I'll know what his music is like overall. And I'm definitely going to be buying more by him again. The ninth and penultimate album is Monkey, Journey to the West. This is a very peculiar album, even by the standards of everything else I've got here. This is a operatic score for a show that was held in 2008, I believe. It was done by a Chinese director and composer called, I have to check this, Chen Shi-zeng, also in collaboration with David Albarn of Blur fame. And this is really weird, because this was actually played during a big elaborate show in London, and I really don't know what to say about this, because I like it, but it's really, weird. Some of the tracks aren't even normal tracks. Obviously they're there for the acts that were on stage, and it does work together. And indeed the whole album, which is 22 tracks long, although some of the tracks are very short indeed, they're like 25-second tracks, some of them, and it's just really bizarre, but I just really like it. I mean, David Albarn is also responsible for Gorillaz, the sort of animated band as well, of which I own all their stuff, so this is why I bought this. And frankly the cover is weird looking, but I think awesome looking as well. And finally the last album is Dream Theater and the Astonishing. This is by an American band. They are classed as progressive metal, and this is a concept album. This is their second concept album they've ever done, and their 13th album overall. I have never heard of them up until fairly recently, and I thought they just sounded quite unusual and quite different, and also really good. So I decided to listen to a few on YouTube. It sounded pretty good to me, so I thought I might as well. So I bought this on day of release, weirdly enough, which is unusual for me. I don't normally buy music that is actually current. And this is, again, very different. It's a double CD. It's a very long album overall. It's got 34 tracks split between 2 CDs. And frankly, the design of it is also unbelievably beautiful as well. It's got a little booklet with all drawn imagery in it, and it's got the overall album, and it goes with the pictures because it has a narrative and a kind of story quality to it, which is just frankly brilliant. I really like this album, I really do, and I'm going to have to investigate what their normal sort of non-concept albums are like, because frankly I have no idea, but I'm very curious to find out. So that's it for all the music and indeed all the books of this haul. If you've read any of the books, or indeed like any of the music that I've talked about, then please let me know in the description below. Also, as always, if you have any suggestions for me, either books or music, and you think I might like them, then feel free to suggest them in the comments to this video or any other video. I'm always happy to have suggestions and new ideas to read or listen to. So with that said, that's it for this video. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you another time. Bye for now.